Hi, thank you for joining me today at Cooking Together Live from Austin, Texas. We've had an incredible couple of weeks here in Texas. I know you all know about it and have been going through it if you're in Texas. Thank you to everyone who's been helping to keep people warm and fed and supplied with water. We have a couple of fundraisers going on my Facebook page that you can access if you could donate to them. I know it would be appreciated by so many. One is for the World Central Kitchen that's been all over Texas and in Austin as well, partnering with restaurants to provide hot meals to, I heard the other day, already 40,000 people just in Austin. It's just amazing. So I really love that organization, want to support it so they can be of help here and elsewhere. And then the other organization is called the Austin Disaster Relief Network. I know people that work with them, and I know they've been all over helping people and distributing water and creating warming shelters and all kinds of important things to do during a disaster. So if you could donate to one of those, or if you already have, thank you so much. And so groceries have been hit or miss in the last week and a half or so, but we were able to find all the ingredients for this because I had a lot of things on hand, and we were able to get our main ingredients of cauliflower and green peas. So I thought this would be the perfect thing to make today. This is an Indian cauliflower and green pea curry, and we're also going to put some potatoes in it as well. Sometimes it's made just with cauliflower, and sometimes it's made with potato. That's up to you. And so what you're going to need for this dish is some cauliflower cut into florets, some potato peeled and diced, either some fresh tomato seeded and diced or some canned tomato, then some fresh green peas, these are frozen, about half of a large onion diced, or this is actually minced. And then for all these seasonings in Indian food, you know there's always a lot of seasonings. Garlic, fresh ginger, a green chili, this is a serrano chili, all either grated or finely chopped. I might even put them in the mortar and pestle to get them activated. And then as far as spices go, I've got some mustard seed, some cumin seed, and some powdered spices of coriander, turmeric, and some red pepper flakes. And then finally, I've got some curry leaves. I know those can be hard to find, so that's optional. And some lemon for garnish, cilantro for garnish, and some coconut milk. I've also got a little sea salt, coconut oil, and water. So if you didn't catch all that, I have the ingredients listed on my Facebook page. And by the end of the week, I should have a recipe posted on my website in case you want to make this later on this week or next week. So let's get started by preheating either a large skillet or a Dutch oven. I wanted to do it in the Dutch oven today because it's going to make a pretty big curry, and then we have enough room for the liquid ingredients too. So let's see. You can use coconut oil or another kind of oil that you like to use. Olive oil would work. Also, ghee would work. So I've got 3 tablespoons here. I might hold back on just a little bit and see if I need the rest. So about 2 or 2.5 tablespoons in there right now. And when that is melted and kind of shimmering, we can add the mustard seed, cumin seed, and then onions. And in the meantime, I'm going to grind up the ginger. That might be a little much. The garlic. Save some of that back. So I have about 3 small cloves of garlic, or 2 really big cloves, and about an inch of fresh ginger. And I find that if you either grate these ingredients with a microplane zester, something you would zest a lemon outside of a lemon with, or grind it up in a mortar and pestle like this where it gets really juicy, the flavor is just so much better than if you just put it in diced or minced. Looks like our oil is ready. Now I'm adding my green chilies. If you don't have a mortar and pestle, I would just grate the fresh ginger and garlic, and that will be fine. And then just mince up the pepper with your knife. Okay, but it's kind of fun to use this, so I like to use it when I can. Mustard seed, if you don't have mustard seed, that is fine. I know some of these spices are kind of exotic. I'm going to let that sizzle for just a minute. You want the mustard seeds to pop so they really activate in the dish. So in a minute, I'm probably going to have to put the lid on. You can hear the sizzling of the spices. Such a good sound. And very shortly, I'm going to add the onion, which we're going to cook to a golden brown. So I'm not going to put any salt in yet. Oh, Nelson just let me know that the heat wasn't on. That's why seeds weren't popping yet. I could hear the gas on, but I guess the flame was not on. Okay. Is it on now? Yes. Okay, still waiting for those seeds to pop a little bit. I've made this in all different ways. Sometimes I use fenugreek seed, cardamom pods. There's a lot of different spice combinations that you could use in here. So don't feel like you have to use the exact same combination of spices that I do. Every recipe that I reference for this curry, or kind of curry vegetable side dish, has a different combination of spices. So it's kind of like every household has their spice blend that they like to use. And speaking of spice blends, I forgot to mention at the beginning that towards the end of cooking, we're going to put in some garam masala, which is a blend of spices. It usually has warming spices like cinnamon, black pepper, black cumin, sometimes, I'm trying to think what else is in there, but mainly cinnamon, black pepper, black cumin, really nice sweet and not hot spicy, just kind of sweet and warming spices. And if you don't have cumin seed, you can use cumin powder, but put the powder in later on, like when we're gonna cook in the tomatoes, we'll put the powdered spices. That way they won't burn. And I think I'll put the rest of the oil to prevent the burning of the onion here. So we're going to serve this curry with some Basmati rice that's steaming right now. You could also serve it with some chapati or some tortillas that are warmed up on either side on a cast iron skillet or a griddle. And if you wanted to get really fancy, you could make a couple of other Indian dishes to go with this if you're having a feast. But this is the fanciest we have eaten in a very, very long time. We've been trying to keep it simple and do one-pot meals that don't require a lot of dishes like this. We can just chop on the cutting board, put it right in. the pot because we were without water for 5 days. We had water that we saved, and we were able to get some from our friend's house. And we also had snow that we were using. So we had water, unlike a lot of people that were left without, but we didn't have running water. And so it made us very conscious about conserving, and I'm glad we had that opportunity because I was really wasting a lot of water, letting the water run when I was doing the dishes and things like that, and flushing the toilets too often, things like that. So it is a good exercise to learn how to conserve our resources, especially during times of crisis, but I think it's important at all times, right? We don't waste our precious water and electricity. Okay. Onions are looking pretty good. I could keep going with those if I had a lot of time. I'm going to put in this mixture of garlic, ginger, and serrano pepper. I seeded the pepper because I don't like it too spicy, but you could leave the seeds in if you want your dish extra spicy. I'll let those activate. It smells so good with the coconut oil, the ginger, garlic, pepper, mustard seed, cumin seed. I just love this. I don't make Indian food very often, but when I do, it's such a special treat. So I mentioned at the beginning you could make this dish without nightshade vegetables, or maybe I think I mentioned it in my ingredients list that I put on Facebook. All you have to do for that is leave out the serrano pepper and substitute for the tomato about the same amount, about a cup or so of butternut squash puree, or steamed cubed butternut squash that you can mash a little bit with a fork. And the way I make that more tomato-like is I add a few dashes of ume plum vinegar, or at the very end of cooking you could add a little bit of freshly squeezed lemon juice. And I just love it that way too. I wanted to try this more traditional way today, but a lot of times I like to make dishes nightshade free, which means no tomatoes or peppers. Also, instead of the potato, you can do all cauliflower, so just double the cauliflower. That's a very traditional way of making this dish as well. Now I'm going to add tomatoes, and soon I'll add the powdered spices as well. And I've taken a number of, I don't know, maybe at least a half dozen of Indian cooking lessons from friends and neighbors, and even at culinary school, from different people that were experts in Indian cooking. And this is called a paste. Basically, I learned that this is the base of a lot of Indian dishes: the onion, garlic, ginger, tomato, and maybe some of the whole spices that you might use. You cook it down until it looks a little bit like a paste. I think this would be a good time to add my turmeric, coriander, and red pepper flakes. That's going to give it a little bit of spiciness. You could also add a pinch of cayenne pepper, or maybe a teaspoon of chili powder. Turmeric is going to give a nice, beautiful yellow color to this dish, which will be a little more obvious once we have the coconut milk in here. this point, I think I'm going to add my first generous pinch of sea salt. You're probably going to need about a teaspoon or a little more salt, maybe a teaspoon and a half, because we've got all this cauliflower and potato which soak up a lot of salt. Okay, now that we've got our paste made, it looks really beautiful. Let's see, I'm going to add the potatoes. Saute these for a minute. Get all of the spices coating the potato. As you know, potato doesn't have a lot of flavor on its own. It really needs the other ingredients in the dish to make it flavorful. And again, if you don't want to make this with potato, just add a little bit more cauliflower and it'll be great. This was just 2 medium Yukon Gold potatoes that were peeled and diced. And I'm going to add a little bit of water. Pretty soon we'll be able to add our coconut milk, but I just want to get these potatoes really starting to get softer. I think I'll put the lid on for a minute. So some other Indian dishes that I've made over the years. One was one of my friends' mothers taught me how to make something called beet chops. They were grated beets and carrots that were sauteed with onions and ginger and garlic and pepper. And then I think it had golden raisins and cashews, and you let the mixture cool down. It also had garam masala, I remember that. Let that mixture cool down and then form it into patties. And then you probably could dust it with some rice flour or something like that, and then pan fry them on either side. So they're like these little croquettes. And then you can serve it with some kind of chutney. That was really delicious, and I actually adapted that recipe to make it into a beet and carrot chutney. So instead of pan frying it at the end to make a croquette, I left it as a sauteed vegetable and served it as a side dish chutney with the rest of a meal. So I was thinking about that when I was making this today, because that would go really well with this dish, the beet chutney or the beet chops. Another dish I like to make is some lemon basmati rice. I think it's about time to add the cauliflower. So lemon basmati rice has coconut milk and shredded coconut, lemon juice. I think it has curry leaves and mustard seeds. Oh my gosh, so good. And it comes out bright yellow because it has some turmeric in it. I need to revive that recipe and make that again. Okay, now I think it's time to add some coconut milk. This is very creamy coconut milk. Make sure you use the full fat version. The light coconut milks are always too watery. And you're basically paying the same amount for less coconut milk because it's just watered down. So get the full fat kind. this is looking so good. It does need to simmer down quite a bit though. And I'm gonna wait to add the green peas. So I've added maybe 3/4 of this can of coconut milk, so maybe about a little more than a cup of coconut milk. It's looking really delicious. Okay, I'm going to add some curry leaves as well. And I think I'm about ready to add that garam masala. I'm going to add the peas and cilantro later so that those stay nice and fresh and green. But let's take a look at these curry leaves. I could just throw them in, but they've got these little stems, little petioles that attach it to the stem that one of my students one time said, "My mother always takes those off." So I thought some people might notice if those little hard stems are in there. These are different than bay leaves. Bay leaves you really can't eat because they're too coarse, they're too hard. You would choke if you tried to swallow a bay leaf, so you always want to take those out. But these are soft enough that you can eat them, or you could leave them whole and remove them. So there's different ways of putting these in. You could leave them whole and then kind of take them out of your dish, or you can slice them into small pieces and just incorporate that into the dish and eat them up. That's fine too. These are dried leaves that my friend gave me a big stem from her plant last summer, and I dried them so I could use them later on. I used to have my own tree, but I think it got damaged in some extreme weather we were having another time. So if you don't have curry leaves, you could use a bay leaf or just leave it out. They don't taste like curry powder, which is turmeric based, but they are used in making curries, so that's why they're called curry leaves. They are very aromatic. See if I know, they don't smell like anything else. I can't really describe. And they're not super strong, so you can put a big handful in and they're not going to overpower the dish. They're also nothing like the lime leaves that you would use in, what's that dish, like tom kha soup or some kind of Thai dish. They're not citrusy at all. They're more savory and umami flavored, I would say. Okay, so I think this is going to simmer shortly. We'll put in the peas, and maybe now we could put in the garam masala. Actually, this is going to turn the sauce a little bit darker. Ooh, and this smells so delicious when you put the garam masala in. Make sure you are paying attention because that smells so good. Nelson used to work at an Indian restaurant. Was it 2 different ones or just one? One Indian restaurant. Okay, because I've heard stories about the Indian restaurant, but I was wondering if there might have been another one.
Worked in many restaurants, but only one Indian one.
I'll just go ahead and put that in. That was maybe about 3/4 of a teaspoon of garam masala. So hopefully that's about right. And at this point, I'll put a little bit more salt in too. And I'm wondering how spicy this is. But I think I'm not going to taste it until the cauliflower is soft, because the vegetables are really going to soak up the spicy flavor and the salt. Okay. So something we can use for garnish is some fresh lemons. That gives it a very fresh taste, and also there isn't really much sour in here. There's a little bit of tomato that has sweetness and sour, but that will give kind of a refreshing sour slash astringent taste at the end. It makes it nice because this is kind of a long cooked vegetable dish. To have something bright and fresh like cilantro and lemon is really, really nice. So some other curries that I have on my website, cookloveheal.com/recipes. You can type in curry there and you'll find a bunch of recipes. I think I've got a chickpea and sweet potato curry and a red lentil and kabocha squash curry. That was part of a curry cook-off that I did a few years back with the Austin Food Bloggers group. I actually won a prize I was really proud of because I had a lot of Indian people coming to my booth for seconds and thirds and fourths to taste it, so I felt honored that people liked it, that knew what they were talking about. Anyway, I have that recipe on my website, so you'll have to check that out. I think it's called kabocha squash and red lentil curry. And then whenever I come up with a new recipe, I send it out to my subscribers. So if you can subscribe, go to cookloveheal.com and put your email address in one of the places, one of the pop-ups, or you can go to the link called /subscribe. And that way we can keep in touch and I can send you recipes and I'll let you know any special events that we have going on online or otherwise. That is looking good. I'll take one of these cauliflower pieces out just to see. I don't think it's quite ready yet, but needs more salt. Somebody's calling to make an order. That is really going to be delicious, but it needs quite a bit more time, maybe 5 more minutes. So we'll put the peas in just a second.
Just tell them that the peas went at the end.
Okay. So I've been making a lot of things with cauliflower, because when you make a recipe like this, you might use half of a large head or medium head of cauliflower, and then you have a lot of cauliflower left over. So another recipe that's on my blog is a southwestern bowl with cauliflower rice. And cauliflower rice, which I did a video on a couple weeks ago, is so easy to make. You just take the head of cauliflower and you grate it on a large grater, large hole grater, and then you saute it with a little bit of sea salt and olive oil, and you can substitute it for rice in almost any recipe. So it's great for making bowls with like some black beans and some fajita veggies and avocado. So you can look for that recipe to use your leftover cauliflower. I also love to roast the cauliflower in the oven. We also just got a new oven that has an air fry setting. And we've tried roasting a bunch of different things in there with the air fry setting, and they come out really amazingly well. It's kind of like almost like you roasted something at a lower temperature, but it gets it very evenly roasted, because it has the convection fans going, so it's pretty cool. Okay. Let's add the green peas. You could even put in more peas if you wanted to. It's up to you. I put about a cup. This looks so delicious. I'm just going to taste this for seasonings. I'll put a little bit of cilantro in now, and then I'll use the rest for fresh garnish. Wow. Okay. I'm going to try a little bit of this and see if it needs a little bit more salt. Potatoes are nice and soft. I think it's almost perfect. I'm just going to add a little bit more salt. And you could serve this with a dal and some rice like I'm going to do today. I'm going to go get the rice that I cooked earlier. Okay. So let's see. Here we go. Could make some basmati rice or jasmine rice. Fluff it up a little bit. I usually do 1.5 cups of water to each cup of rice for this kind of rice. And as I said, you could make this meal even more elaborate, but I think this is going to be delicious as is. Okay. Serve some of this up. I think one thing you're going to love about this is how your kitchen is going to smell so good. You can serve that with a little bit of lemon and cilantro. So I hope you will make this soon and let me know how it goes. And visit my Facebook page to check on those nonprofits that are helping the people of Texas right now. And we really appreciate your support. So happy cooking and bon appetit.